Brad Miller is an ambassador to the community, the founder and creator of Pod Indy and a slew of podcasts, including Cancer and Comedy. I'll let you kind of give the pitch for your shows. Just has been an awesome friend to the local podcast community for many years. Nobody goes to more podcast conventions. Like if you're wondering, is a podcast convention like Podcast Movement or Podfest worth it? Brittany Wilkins and Brad are your people. And Brad, thanks so much for giving this trade. We really do appreciate it.
All right, right there. This is a story about listening. The guy went out in his backyard. I've heard about this when I was out in Colorado this summer, went in his backyard, and there in his backyard, this big tree was a grizzly bear. He said, oh my God, what am I going to do? So he got online, and he found Bob's bear removal service. So he called him up, and sure enough, Bob showed up. And the guy said, Bob, can look at this. There's a bear up there. What am I going to do? He says, well, I got you covered here. I do have some pieces of equipment that I need to get out of my truck, and you're going to have to help out with those. So he gets in his truck, and he gets out a ladder, a German Shepherd dog with a leash, and a shotgun. And he goes out. Now, here's what we're going to do, Bob says to the guy. I'm going to get the ladder, and I'm going to climb up in that tree with the baseball bat. You're going to hold the leash of this German Shepherd, and I'm going to go up in that tree, and I'm going to bop that bear on the head, and he's going to fall out of the tree. And this German Shepherd has been especially trained, so when the bear falls out of the tree, that German Shepherd is going to clench the teeth down the groin of that bear and hold him down until he's subdued. He says, well, the thing is, if I get up in that tree, you let go of the dog as soon as I take a swing at that bear. And the guy says, okay, what's this other thing? What's this shotgun for? He said, well, if the bear knocks me out of the tree, you shoot the dog. It'll catch up with you. The idea here is to listen and think about what Plan D is and be good listeners. And I want to share with you today about how we can have different ways that we listen and learn. For instance, I'm going to share this with you. My name is Brad, and my favorite podcast is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Now, the count of three, I want everybody to tell me your name and your favorite podcast, all at once. 1, 2, 3.
Hello, these are soft boys.
Got it. Now, I didn't really get it because it's just a massive diffusion, right? So what I want you to do is find a partner near you, and whoever's closest to me goes first, and you've got 10 seconds. Just everybody find a partner right near you. Just find a partner, anybody, or trio. And you just say, the person who's closest to me goes first, and you just share with that other person, the other person who's quiet, says, what's your name and what's your favorite podcast? So you got 10 seconds. Go. What's your name, Mr.
Oh dear, I'm a fair podcast.
Right, stop. Now the other person is the farthest away from me, goes and does the same thing. You've got 10 seconds to share with the other person what's your name and what's your favorite podcast. Go.
You're right. You're right, Spike.
Bullseye. It's stop. Stop. Look up here. I appreciate you doing that. What we just did there is two forms of communication, very simplified. The first one is broadcast. You have learned about me and my favorite podcast, and I just projected that to you. The second thing we did is you were able to have one-on-one communication with somebody, and you learned a little bit more about them. I could not understand anything that really anybody said when you're all kind of talking to me at once. Somehow, podcasting kind of falls in between there, where we want to have some intimacy with our audience and learn about them and get information out. So I want to talk to you for just a few minutes here today about what we experienced there. You learned a little bit about that person, you learned their name and about their favorite podcast. I got this handout that's there and a few pins out there. You can follow if you want to, or just listen in. And just a few tips and things that I learned about how to communicate and listen and learn. I call it just to listen and learn and return. So here we go. The first thing is that POV, which is on there, point of view. You're familiar with that. But really what I think that's really about is to first listen to yourself. What lights you up? What makes you alive? Listen to yourself. And so one of the ways that I do that is I ask myself 3 questions, which I learned at the event I was at or a book that I read, and 3 questions that I think help to define your point of view. The first one is, what breaks your heart? So you can put that into your slide if you want there. What breaks your heart? The second one is, what pisses you off? And the third one is, what problem related to that can you do something about? So in my case, I do a podcast about cancer, okay? My point of view is that I got diagnosed with cancer about 3 years ago, and it kind of devastated me. I have a back to keep from crying was my first reaction. And so I developed the methodology to help myself cope with that. And so that was my point of view, that I wanted to get some word out about that. So again, the other part here about the what breaks your heart, or what pisses you off, and what drives you, what problem you solve. It broke my heart to see other people not coping with cancer. Pissed me off to see that systems weren't in place to help people cope with cancer, well, beyond the medical. And the thing I could do about it is to talk about it and use my experience as a pastor, and as a person who experienced cancer, and a person who's been with people with cancer in their lives to help to cope with that. And to do it with a bit of humor, which is what I like to do. That's why I told the stupid joke that nobody got here a minute ago. So I like to do dad jokes and things like that, and I do like my podcast is for cancer comedy, because it deals with something called therapeutic humor to help bring that in people's lives to help them cope with cancer. So the intersection of kind of that, what breaks your heart and what pisses you off and what can you do about it is kind of where you're going to be the starting point. Now, the next part of this is what I call the ACTS plan, the ACTS. The A in the word ACTS stands for taking action. If you're going to do something about this, it wouldn't do me any good just to sit back and just to say, okay, poor me, I got through this myself, maybe whatever. Action is at least 3 things that I think you can do. Number 1, the first part of this, the action bar, the way, is the physical part. This is where you actually get off your rear end and do something, okay? So the first part of that is to plant your flag. This is something that I stand for. This is what I'm all about. In my case, I'm about helping people cope with cancer, okay? So to plant your flag, here is where I stand, okay? The second part of this is to publish something, anything. Get something out there. Talk about it, record it. You have to tell it to other people if you don't want to, but record it, write it down in a journal, do something, kind of state your case. Publish something, and even if you record it and put it out there, good. You got to start selling, okay? Because that's kind of the starting point. And so the third part of this is to tell others about it. Tell somebody that you're working on this. It could be your spouse, family member, somebody you're in my case, I've told some other people related to the cancer community what I'm working on, get a little bit of reaction that way. The idea, you cannot edit error. You have to have something to work with. You cannot be always reading and thinking and things like that. You have to take action. So that is the word in the framework I use, the ACTS plan. The A is to take action. Movement. You can't steer, you've always said, you can't steer a park boat. You got to get moving, okay? All right. The C in the word for ACTS is connect. This is the relational piece. And I put this in 2 or 3 different categories. And this has to do with how we connect with other people and with the public who has an interest in the same thing that I'm interested in. So the first part of this is to ask others what breaks their heart, what pisses them off, what do they think needs to be done about this problem. Ask people. When I say ask people, I mean ask them in whatever circles you find yourself in, personally, online, Facebook, things like that. Get on the various groups that relate into your topic and start asking people, okay? And then to listen is the next part here. Listen to listen to what they say and to record that down. listen to what people are talking about and to really notice that. And then so listen to what they say in terms of making it kind of a part of your massive, you build up a portfolio as well of information about this. Because what you think about it is not going to be exactly the same what others think about it who have the same problem. You get that information too. And the third part of this is to pay attention. To pay attention to what's going on in the world. Pay attention to news, culture, things of that nature. Online, see what people are saying online, on YouTube videos and other things like that about your topic. This is kind of the research phase of this. So you have this connection, interpersonal, and this is really the relational part of what I'm talking about. You got to deal with people in terms of this. Some people call it management, walking around in corporate circles. You get out and be where people are at. So that's part of what we're talking about, connection. And so this is part of what I like to teach you. You cannot do this. If you're going to be a podcaster, you remember somebody on the other side of that video and that video there is a human being having some issue that you're dealing with as well. If not, I bet they know somebody. In the case of cancer, I'm finding out there's literally not anybody who's not been impacted by it. Either themselves, a family member, a co-worker, somebody's been impacted by cancer. So get it out there, talk about it. So that's the connection piece, the interpersonal relational piece. The T in this is to think strategically. This is the cognitive piece, how you use your head, how you use your brain to plan strategically, and how you do all this in such a way that it makes some sense for what you're working on. This is where you actually start to build your podcast or actually start to build your YouTube channel. And what are some of the ramifications of that? How's it going to look? How are you going to record it? And how are you going to get it out there? But it also has to do with these things. It has to do with the resources that you have. So I would talk to you about 2 or 3 resources that I use. One of them is books. I'm a reader, and I'm writing my own book right now. And so I've got 2 or 3 books up here that I think are really good. This is one called Ask by Ryan Levesque. Great questions in this, okay? If anybody you want to know about how you can leverage the power of asking big questions, this is a great book for that. I got part of what I shared here today about what just as you often what breaks your heart from this guy here, Mike Kim. You are the brand, about building your own personal brand of things. Put some of these in the resource sheet that you did, by the way. This one's not on there. Superfans by Pat Flynn is American number 2 about building community. And that is something I want to commend to you about how you can interact with people. This has to do with responding to people's needs. If somebody gives you a comment on your YouTube channel or on your podcast, respond. It's the ways that you can do that, interact with them. And the one that I really like here, I read recently, is by Tom Webster. The audience was listening. I've got to hear him speak in person. This is excellent. But I would say, if you're going to be a podcaster or a YouTuber, I would almost say this is required reading in the sense of if you really want to succeed, this has to do with how to really break down and learn about your audience. A great survey is within this book here that you can apply to whatever you're doing.
What was the name of the last book?
The audience is listening, and I put it on your resource page as well, okay? I gave you that. So those are some resources that you can use. All right, let's talk about a couple of online tools that are out there. Your basics for social media, which is Facebook and Reddit and all those guys. You just go to the topic, you just punch in whatever your topic is, and you go to the various groups and what have you, and start reading what their people are saying. Social media is a little bit of a slippery slope because you can go all kinds of places, but still well worth it, especially if you like some of the groups. And participate in the groups and learn about them and ask some questions. Don't sell anything. Don't try to sell them your latest thing. Don't even promote your podcast yet. Just listen and learn, okay? So that's kind of the social media. I'm not going to go much further than that. But there are a couple of other online tools that I think that you can use. I happen to use PodPage as my place where I host, or my podcast webpage builder has Tom Webster's online survey built into that software. I think some others do that too, but I'm using it as an example. There's online tools out there. And then I also use one that I call Fan List, which is a service that helps you to text back and forth with your listeners. Use these things in such a way. Now, let me tell you about how this thing strategically there's also something else you can use called your telephone. Duh. I've had some great conversation with the listeners of my podcast. I might just say, hey, can I call you? Or a Zoom call. And we just do that. What's on your heart? What's on your mind? And many people die. I've made some adjustments to my podcast this week. But tell you a quick story about Taylor Swift. Anybody ever heard of her? Who had? One of the reasons we've all heard of her is because she does a marvelous job of relating to her fan base, and that impacts everybody else. Now, let alone the whole Travis Kelce getting married kind of thing, which is huge. I interacted with a guy in the radio world not too long ago who took his daughter, this is about 8 years ago, took his 12-year-old daughter at a time to a Taylor Swift concert. And he told me about the experience, because he was in the radio world, he got to go and take his daughter to some sort of a meetup with Taylor Swift after the event or before the event. And he talked about how it was well organized and how Taylor Swift and her mother and her father were involved. And they had all these 12-year-old girls and their dads and moms in circular tables. And Taylor Swift went from table to table asking a question about each young girl and about how's it going to school? I understand you play soccer, whatever it was, this kind of stuff. And somebody was with Taylor Swift taking some notes and that kind of thing. But she had a moment, like a face-to-face, eye-to-eye moment with all those 12-year-old girls and their parents. And then later on, all those girls that my friend's daughters one of got a handwritten note from Taylor Swift. Now, maybe somebody else wrote it, I don't know. But the girl thought it was. And the point is, all that personal contact meant that all those girls are Swifties for life, and all their friends are, and that word gets out, because it's all being filmed too. You see what I'm saying? It's about that relationship you build with one person may spread out. So that's the strategic part of it. That's why some things like gifts and just a good word, a compliment, a good word on a Facebook post are all good things. It's one of the reasons I'm giving you all a little gift here today. Everybody gets a bracelet today. It looks like this. It's on your table. Just so that you know a little bit more about Cancer Comedy Podcast. It's just a little gift for you today. All right, now let's talk about kind of my last major point here. Let me see if I got everything. And surveys are a part of that. Surveys is asking to get it written down so you have data, okay? It's good to have hard data, all right? That's the survey part of it. All right, the S of the word acts is to, by the way, the strategic thinking is the cognitive, using your mind, plain and think sense. The S is to serve with love. This is the emotional thing. You got to have emotion. You got to care. You got to give a damn about your audience, and they need to know that. You got to be genuine. That's something that AI can't do, okay? You can be genuine. You can be real and share that. It comes through in your voice, your videos, and in the personal interactions that you have. So let's talk about some ways that you can do that to show that you care. One is when somebody gives you if somebody gives you a suggestion, then you might just want to build an episode or build something about that. You don't always have to. You got to be sure what your big why is, but maybe you can listen and learn to what they're about. So that first thing is to build an episode or build a series of episodes around the topics that people are talking about. You can also, the second part there of that bullet point is to tell their story. Sometimes you can do that through an actual interview or some other way. Or you could tell somebody's story anonymously. Sometimes I'm working with cancer people. They don't want everything known about them because it's pretty gory and everything. But you can just still tell their story. And you can acknowledge that in social media and other ways as well. And that's been the last piece, be an advocate for them. Be a cheerleader for your audience. Love them and share with them and be on their team, be on their side. Be that. Swifties, go back to that for a second, is what, people love her because they know that she relates to them, right? It's a relational thing, and she tells the story of young girls going through broken hearts and the whole bit. Now, I was going to play this out with you for just a minute and here, two areas that are important to me because they're important to you. Every year, coming up this fall for the third year, I've had an event that I sponsor called Pod Indy because I had in my heart to do something for the podcasting community. And 3 years ago, I just put a thing out there and said, we're going to do a podcasting event. Not too long after that, I got a call from this guy over here, Chris, and some others here came along, and we had a great little event at the podcast studio that I run in Whiteland, Indiana. We call it Pod Indy. But things change and they evolve. Here's the flyer that everybody's got it. At our last meeting 3 months ago, I asked a couple questions of this body here. Okay, how can we do, if we're going to do Pod Indy again, what we need to do? And the feedback I got, let's focus a little more, and we really like to really learn more about AI. So I'm just simply sharing with you that we had the event, so we took the action, we listened to the response, and now we're going to do something about it. So I would really like for everybody to think about, we're going to focus on AI at Pod Indy, November 8th in Whiteland at the podcast studio I run out of my church that I go to. It's called Heaven Earth Church, and I have a podcast studio there. It's November 8th. It's about AI. The whole day is 4-hour block. We're going to focus on AI interactive. It's reasonably priced, I think. Really like for you to come. Really would like for you to come and tell others about it. The guy I got coming in, some of you have met him, Craig Van Slyke, is a professor of AI from Louisiana Tech University. He's flying in. He's on sabbatical right now. He's going to share with us the latest research that he's working on with AI. We're going to be on the cutting edge of this right here in the Indy area. Why? At least part of this is because we listen to one another and are responding to them. Okay? So there's that. Now that's all well and good, but I want to share with you a personal story that means more to me than some of the other things here. Because it's personal. Just yesterday, this happened to me. I went to another networking event, a business-related event in the Castleton area, and I gave my little 45-second spiel about what I just pretty much did about PodIndy.com. And a guy came to me afterwards, and he started a conversation that I did Mark. And started the conversation initially because he was kind of interested in the event that I was doing, and he wanted to learn more about podcasting. I found out when I told him my podcast being about cancer. He related it, he's a stage 4 cancer survivor, and he's written a book, and he's got some aspects about that are related to me. We had a connection, we're going to try to say it, instantaneously, pretty much. And his bottom line result is that Mark and I are about to get together for coffee and lunch, and he is almost surely going to be a guest on my podcast. He almost hired me on the spot to help him with some podcast consulting. He says, we're going to talk about how we can work on getting my podcast going. And so it's going to be a business development thing for me as well. But you know what else? Basically, when I left that conversation, there was a catch in his throat that he made a connection with someone who had at least some similarity to his story. Okay? This is an emotional human-to-human thing. We're going to do a conference about AI to be sure. Remember, AI is a tool. But what we're really talking about here is the personal one-to-one connection. That's more than the broadcast TV or broadcast radio can do, even more than a giant conference can do. Those are all good things. But it's about that one-on-one connection. And I really look forward to these live events to make that one-on-one connection to you, to hear your stories, and for us to learn from one another. It's all about listening, learning, and returning for the greater good. That's my talk. Let's have a little entertaining foods. I'd be interested in hearing for just a couple minutes if anybody's got any stories where you felt listening was a good thing in your experience to do what you're doing. Can we take a couple minutes for that? Yeah, this one. What about the bear? Go bear. Let's go.